together world-leading organizations that are demonstrating how to create operational and financial impact at scale, and mainly through the adoption of fourth industrial revolution technologies. Before we get started, let me first introduce my colleague Eno de Boer, Head of Manufacturing at McKinsey Company and our partner in this incredible journey. Eno, a very good morning to you in New York. Welcome to Lighthouses Live.
Thank you, Francisco. It's great to be here today to celebrating the 15 new lighthouses that have been identified by the independent expert panel. This brings the total number of lighthouses to 69, spanning an incredible variety of sectors and geographies. All of them are resetting benchmarks in agility, resilience, growth, and eco-efficiency. Over the next 90 minutes, you will hear from a number of lighthouse CEOs and will learn more about how lighthouses are acting as beacons for inspiration and innovation. Back to Geneva, Francisco.
Thank you, Eno. In addition to the new lighthouses, our audience will hear a broad set of perspectives, especially from a medium-sized enterprise and also from a company that represents all those who are in the process of joining the network or are actually willing to do so. And we will then close the day by sharing some insights on the future of operations overall and our Global Lighthouse Network. But now, Eno, let's get started with the very first highlight of the day.
Johnson & Johnson is the most valuable healthcare company in the world. They are at the front line of manufacturing vaccines for COVID-19. It has more lighthouses than any other organization on the network. Microsoft is known as a technology leader. But what about manufacturing? Microsoft manufactures Xboxes, Surface tablets, HoloLenses. But more important, many of our lighthouses have deployed a modernized cloud-based architecture powered by Azure. It's now my honor and pleasure to introduce Alex Gorsky, CEO of Johnson & Johnson, and Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, who will kick us off. Over to Alex and Satya.
Satya, it's awesome to see you, and thank you so much for joining me with everything so crazy going on around the world today. Now, the fact that we're holding this event virtually, well, it illustrates just how important the power of the ideas that we're discussing today. Who would have thought 13 months ago that we would be meeting and having this kind of a discussion at this particular point in time? And I don't know about you, but if I think about companies, industries, economies, society, well, they're all being transformed one way or another by the power of technology. And it's really been put on steroids and fast track by the need to adapt, to this pandemic that we've all been dealing with. Now, last April, if I remember right, Satya, you very astutely described our environment as probably creating at least 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. And I got to tell you where I sit now, I couldn't agree with that notion anymore. And whether it's drone delivery to e-commerce to telemedicine, all of us, we've just seen unprecedented acceleration in new channels for access to products and services and really about every aspect of our lives. But I think we also know that with that, of course, there's always something else. And that something else in this case are probably greater expectations around transparency. And it's not just visibility across value chains, but also into considerations like sustainability, where the expectations have increased significantly, ethical sourcing, and many other principles that many weren't really focusing on, at least in a big way, even just a few years ago. And all of this, I think we'd agree, is really being driven by this need, this desire, this demand for personalization in about everything that we do. I mean, we see consumers, they just don't want a product, but they want a customized product, and they want a wraparound experience along with the relationship. So as advanced manufacturers, I guess in some ways, we both have got the responsibility and the opportunity to figure out how do we get ahead, not be caught on our heels with these changes. And we do it in a way that's really going to help all those stakeholders that we serve every day. Now, one surefire path forward is through better partnering, collaboration, knowledge sharing across companies and industries. I got to tell you, in mine, there's no way we would have been able to do what we've done with the vaccine without that. And this type of cooperation, though, I think it's going to extend beyond across all industries. And it's certainly, we're seeing the results of that as we speak. And it's also at the very heart of the Global Lighthouse Network's mission, that we're talking about. So I couldn't be more excited to join you, Satya, and discuss not just our own digital transformations, but how all of us in attendance today can help guide other organizations into a more resilient, purposeful, sustainable future.
No, thank you so much, Alex. I mean, I'm so thrilled to be with you and with all of the folks who are part of this amazing network. And I want to thank everyone, right? Because it's the advanced manufacturing, critical manufacturing sectors that have continued to keep the economy going and our society going. And also congratulations to you, obviously, on a massive milestone a few weeks ago when your vaccine got approved. And I know what all went into it. I mean, it's a miracle of, I would say, ingenuity and amazing capability and resolve of the people who work at Johnson & Johnson to just make this happen. So I'm really appreciative of everything that's happened.
Well, thank you so much. And look, I couldn't be more proud of our industry, of our company, what we've been able to achieve over the last 13 months. And to see that go from an idea and some data on a screen to shots in arms to helping real patients, families, hopefully helping all of us get back to a new normal, it's awesome. But look, one question I had for you, Satya, as I was thinking about today, maybe what would be interesting is, I think this pandemic has really forced all companies across every industry to transform with a real sense of urgency, including and especially this manufacturing and supply chain side of things. What do you think it is what must organizations do to accelerate their digital transformation out of the pandemic? And if you look forward, on that other side, what are you seeing in new frontiers for technology advancements, for manufacturing and supply chains? And you've got such a unique perch. What do you think will the world really require from tech to succeed?
No, that's a fantastic question, Alex. I mean, one of the things that I look back even in the last year, in the first phase, we became, I'll call, digital first responders to all the first responders out there, right? So whether it was in healthcare, retail, critical manufacturing, because, all of them had to still continue to be productive, doing the things to support both the economic activity and the daily lives of our society. So we learned a ton, or even education. I mean, who would have thought that the entire world is going to go to remote education in a period of a month? And so we learned a lot, and most particularly, what I even shudder to think, Alex, what the world would have looked like, but for perhaps the current paradigm of technology, right? In our case, let's say the cloud. Without the cloud, I don't know how Microsoft would have functioned, but let alone how the world that we serve would have functioned. So I feel that resiliency driven by digital technology is now become paramount. Like the next tail event, none of us can predict what that is. But one thing is for sure, that the way we will have resilience is by having this digital capability, because it's kind of in some sense the malleable resource. Now, the interesting thing, though, is what is this next phase of digital transformation, right? I sometimes talk about it as is the second wave of digital transformation. It's really structurally changing industry. Like in retail, in physical retail, there's no going back from curbside pickup or contactless shopping, right? Or in healthcare, I think no outpatient visit will not start without an AI triage tool to telemedicine and then an outpatient visit. But same thing in manufacturing too, right? One of the things that we're learning is, let's say even what you were doing, like one of the things I learned in J&J is you're putting all these IoT capabilities right in the plant, which you've done for a long time. But you know what? Just you're even doing it for all the manufacturing capability you're sourcing now outside. So that you can, have the digital footprint of that outsourced capacity so that you can manage quality, right? I mean, that ability to use computation at the edge to really make manufacturing more efficient. Or what Unilever was able to do, Alex, was, make sure that they have digital twins for 140 odd plants of theirs so that they can do complete lights out manufacturing, right? I mean, it's just, so again, ways digital technology. I mean, the other thing perhaps I've seen is first line workers in manufacturing, learning these new tools like Power Platform or what have you. These are, think of it like Excel change knowledge work. Now we have these low-code, no-code tools that are enabling domain experts to do automation at the edge so that they can continue to drive productivity. So amazing amount of digital technology adoption to overcome the constraints of the pandemic is, I think, what's going to be a dramatic shift. And you started the entire conversation by saying consumer expectations have changed. Everybody's going to expect more personalized services and products. Same thing with employees. And so that's, I think, what's going to be really transformative going forward. Maybe the question I had for you, Alex, would be, when you look at all of this, after all, I think one of the most modern miracles is what the vaccine development process has been, right? I think long after we're done with this, people will write about what that went, what was the change that brought about. And it is you had invested a long time ago to create even the necessary conditions for you to be able to do what you did. But how do you think about digital technology and all that it entails in sort of manufacturing going forward?
Well, look, Satya, I would say that digitization is going to touch every aspect of our business. And I can't imagine 10 years from now that whether it's our businesses, our manufacturing, our financial systems, our human resource systems, it will just be so imbued into every process, every function, every connection that we make. And, let me give you a few examples. Even in our discovery and development of our vaccine, that literally would not have been possible even perhaps a decade ago, because we would not have had the data analytics capability to get the genomic sequencing of the COVID-19 virus literally within a matter of weeks after it first appeared. And it was out of that code that we were then able to assemble some of our very first constructs that we added into our vector platform so that we could design the actual vaccine. And again, that was all enabled based upon, data sciences that we've been working on for more than a decade to really develop. Taking that information, then trying to design our clinical trials. That was also a large database exercise, because what we were finding is we were testing our vaccine during a period where, frankly, there were a lot of ebbs and flows in the incidence rates of the actual virus. And so to make sure we could get to the sites around the country, let alone around the world, where we were seeing dramatic increases, required real-time transfer of data and information to allow us to obviously be able to gather the best possible, data sets to have the vaccine approved. And at the same time, while the biology, the chemistry, the engineering of, getting that part up and running, the clinical trials was significant. How do you go from zero manufacturing to 100 million doses over a quarter? Well, the only way you do that is through the application of digitization, of new technologies. And here too, our teams were literally working around the clock, both in creating the drug substance, as well as the tech transfer required to actually put it into the vials, to actually be able to do the track and trace on the actual vials themselves, knowing that certain information around dating would change real time. So we went from a static to a very dynamic way of labeling the products themselves so that they can be kept up to date. So it's a very exciting real-time application that without which we could not be doing what we're doing today.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal to sort of even hear that description of what is that real-time digital backbone that supports the entire operation. It's just phenomenal. I mean, one thing I also want to, again, congratulate you on the sustainability milestone. From what I understand, this is the first time, you are the most decorated as a company in terms of the lighthouses. Your consumer health site in Sweden now is part of the Lighthouse Network. So you're doing a lot in sustainability. You even talked about it, which is it's no longer about any one thing. It's about sort of even coming out of this pandemic with more transparency, with more things around, whether it's sustainability work or ethical sourcing. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about how you're approaching all of that, in particular sustainability, Alex?
Certainly. Well, look, I think another secular change coming out of COVID-19 is this accelerations of the expectations that society have in general about industry, about businesses like ours. And in fact, the need for us to consider many stakeholders, certainly our shareholders, without which we can't keep this, flywheel going. But beyond that, what about our employees? What about our communities? What about the environment? What about the entire ESG framework? And I think all of us who are really committed to creating a long-term, viable, sustainable, business have got to be thinking, okay, how do we incorporate some of these other aspects, into our day-to-day activities, just as the way we look at market share, just as the way we look at innovation as it relates to technology. And so for us at Johnson & Johnson, and we also believe, by the way, that, sustainability is absolutely an essential part of healthcare. Because if we're not creating, again, a cleaner environment, an environment that is more sustainable, and if we're not contributing to that, then we're not fulfilling our mission about improving healthcare for people's lives around the world. So we're very proud of this recognition. It's been a journey that we've been on, like many companies. We think it, just like in healthcare, it takes a holistic approach, with fundamentally from the product's design at the very beginning. How are you thinking about, the innovation for the product itself? How are you thinking about the packaging? How are you thinking about the distribution? Once it actually gets into the manufacturing facility, yes, how are you thinking about resource utilization? How are you thinking about the footprint? How are you thinking about the way it's connected? What about the external suppliers that you're connected to? How can you be working with them to create, a much cleaner, a much greener entire ecosystem? And again, how can you do this in a way that's not just looking at the next 10 weeks or 10 months, but is doing it in a way that's going to frankly create a better 10 years or 10 decades going forward. So we're trying to take a very holistic approach. We're very proud of this particular facility, but we hope that it's going to set kind of a role model, an example for not only other companies within our portfolio, but hopefully across industry, so that we can all take bigger, faster steps on this journey that we're all on.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Now, look, that was a lot of, on that part, but I'm really interested in hearing from you, Satya, is that I think you'd agree that the pandemic, well, it's fundamentally changed the way that we work. And you mentioned this in one of your earlier responses. And I bet none of us expect that we're all going to just hop back to, quote, the old normal. It's going to be some kind of a new normal. And again, through all of your different applications and connections and what you're seeing with your clients and customers, I'd love to hear, what do you think we should expect in terms of the future at work? And what do you think organizations have absolutely got to pay attention to?
No, it's absolutely, Alex. That I think is sort of just like on the consumer side or the customer side, the expectations have changed. I think the expectations have changed even with our employees and in fundamentally the way we stay productive and do what we do. I would say the key word is flexibility. But then I think I would sort of say there are three dimensions in which this flexibility will need to be supported, right? The first is around collaboration. It's, of course, the knowledge workers and their ability to work remotely, having more flexibility in meetings, before meetings, after meetings. That in some sense has been there before. We now exercise some of the tools, like even at something like Microsoft Teams has got that capability of, it's about video meetings, but it's also what happens before, during, and after meetings, and that workflow. And so that's even coming back, quote unquote, it'll be helpful because some people will be remote, some people will be at work. There will be a lot of knowledge work collaboration. But the interesting thing to me is collaboration between frontline people and the knowledge folks. All right, it's like an engineer who is on a manufacturing site. Sorry, I'm working from home, talking to a technician on the front line. And in fact, I've never seen, we built HoloLens for a lot of these scenarios, but the adoption of that remote work scenario has been tremendous, right? L'Oreal, has this standard issue of a HoloLens to all their remote workers so that they can get support from engineers. Same thing with Daimler in their dealership, right? If it's a complex job that needs to be supported, they're able to use these new technologies to have that expertise show up wherever in spite of no travel, so to speak. Another area beyond collaboration is learning, right? We all have had, right? Whether it's interns or new employees join our company, and we've had the challenge of how do you build that knowledge capital, right? Because we learn from each other, we learn from other experts and co-workers. So a lot of what is the work that's going on is how do you make learning part of the job? So in the workflow, how do we bring the learning content or the other expert who can actually help you get up the learning curve faster? So the way we approach learning and skilling, I think, is going to be also structurally changed. And that, by the way, will have great results around productivity going forward. And then the last one, I would say, Alex, is this thing about it's like none of us are clear whether we are working from home or we are sleeping at work. So well-being is another big issue, right? Where you have to sort of think about productivity not narrowly but broadly. And this is another place where data, just like how you talked about data in drug discovery, data can be helpful in terms of how are we allocating the most scarce resource, which is our time and attention. And managers can use that to make sure that there's no burnout, there is better, people are well taken care of. And so that idea of collaboration, learning, and well-being, and flexibility, and I would call it even just next level of enlightened leadership in management and policies around it, is what I expect across sectors. It's not going to be uniform. Different parts of the world are going to be different functions are going to be different. So I don't sort of subscribe to any one dogma saying, yeah, we found the future, this is the only thing. I think we all will have to really adjust to what might feel in the initial phases as more complex, but the tools and the technologies and even leadership and management capabilities will help us overcome these challenges.
Satya, I couldn't agree more. I don't think there is one patent solution that's going to fit across all companies and in all cultures. As I reflect on it, I think that the major areas for me are one of innovation. How do we sustain that in a proximate but also a more distal environment, and culture. And in our world, the couple of concerns that I have is how do we move to this next phase where there's certain innovation where proximity of having people together that maybe ordinarily wouldn't be together, and how can that be facilitated with technology in new ways so that we don't miss a beat, and that we're able to innovate at the same rate and the same pace. Now, look, I'm going to be the optimist and say perhaps there are ways that we can make that even better and more collaborative on the other side, but I think that will be one area for us to consider. And the other is around culture. And how can we make sure that the values, those kind of incidental meetings that can take place between two people where they go to a meeting, they didn't know each other, and then suddenly it creates a new learning or a new relationship, a mentoring opportunity. And while many of us who have been with an organization for a long time, we probably have long half-lives on a lot of those relationships. Yeah. The newer people to the organization may not have that same capital yet established. And so I think it's going to be incumbent for all of us to, think of, okay, how do we adapt in this new world to ensure that we can continue to innovate, even at a better rate? And how do we maintain in those essential elements of our values and of our culture, at the same time, I think, continue to evolve it, knowing that we're going to be operating in a different environment.
No, absolutely.
So look, this has been an awesome conversation, Satya. We could probably go on for another 2 hours, but we would bore everybody to tears probably. And I know we both have a lot to be doing, but I really thank you. I think this is an exciting area of technology and how it's touching just every aspect of our companies, of our industries, of our lives. And I remain an optimist, thinking that, while there's been a tremendous amount of suffering as a result of COVID-19, that there's a tremendous amount of possibility and optimism on the other side if we can really kind of harness and build on these things in the right way.
No, thank you so much. It's super well said, Alex. And again, congratulations to you as well as everyone else on being at the Lighthouse event being recognized. So thank you all for the work you all have done. And I'm really looking forward to your point about optimism. I think as we go forward, I think we'll come out of this with some great learning and great capability to make the world around us a better place. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.
What a fascinating and inspiring conversation. It's great to hear about the importance of digital transformation and collaboration, which are the founding principles of our Global Lighthouse Network. Thank you again, Alex and Satya, for your time. We will be announcing shortly our new lighthouses, but before we do so, I'm delighted to introduce Revathi Advaiti, CEO of Flex, and Laura Rocchitelli, CEO of Roll, who will share their perspectives on the importance of digital transformation and our global network overall. And that both for advanced manufacturing companies like Flex, but also the millions of small and medium-sized enterprises that Roll actually represents. Revathi, Laura, why should companies of all sizes aspire to become lighthouses and actually join our network?
Being a lighthouse manufacturing companies allows for kind of the industry's best in class to come together and to learn, right, from each other. And eventually what we all want is to really move and fast forward the adoption and then the use of the fourth industrial revolution technologies. If we all come together and do that well, then it enables organizations to achieve a higher performance, right? We become more innovative, and then we provide a great experience to our workforce. And hopefully, right, the best part of everything would be more meaningful and safe jobs.
For a small, medium company like Roll, is a great achievement to be part of the Global Lighthouse Network. I think that it could help us to be more present in the world. We can leverage this network, and we have increased also our reputation.
We know success comes from the entire community getting better together as manufacturing communities. And so for us, just listening to what other organizations are doing, my whole team did a virtual tour of another company which has a lighthouse factory. And we learned so much from that sharing, right? So that idea of collaborating and learning from each other is significantly beneficial. And we're looking forward to doing our part and sharing that journey with other companies and other organizations.
I fully agree with Revathi and Laura. There are huge benefits of being part of the network and building your own lighthouse. We'll be talking more later about the importance of the network for the future of operations. Today, we are celebrating 15 new lighthouses. All of them are front runners and bring new insights to the platform. Shortly, we will hear from 11 of their CEOs. How are they leveraging 4IR technologies to create impact at scale? How are they driving sustainable growth? How are they preparing their workforce for the future? And how do they scale beyond manufacturing? But before doing so, let us first introduce our very new lighthouses briefly.
Many congratulations to all our new lighthouses. Becoming a member of our Global Lighthouse Network is an important recognition of everyone's efforts, from frontline operators to C-level executives. There is something unique and common to all these companies. Humans are actually at the center of their digital transformation, and they are all delivering operational and financial impact at scale, actually driving sustainable growth. Before we hear directly from CEOs about their journeys to become a lighthouse, let us go quickly around the world and tell you what is special about each of them.
Let's get started. Bosch's plant in Suzhou, China is a role model for lean within Bosch. They took manufacturing excellence with digital to the very next level. Volkmar Denner, chairman of the board of management, has some fascinating insights on how to turn manufacturing into a competitive advantage. We'll speak to Börje Ekholm, president and CEO of Ericsson. They not only built the first 5G lighthouse factory in Dallas, Texas, but also demonstrated how you scale with agile ways of working and a modernized stack. Foxconn's new lighthouse site has tripled labor productivity using mixed reality, artificial intelligence, and an IIoT stack. Yang Wei Liu, chairman of Honhai Technology Group, will talk about how technology and people go hand in hand. Let's now go over to Spain for its first lighthouse, where we celebrate the Henkel Lighthouse. Their digital strategies have driven down cost whilst reducing their carbon footprint. CEO Carsten Knobel will tell us more about their work.
Brilliant. We will also hear from Enrique Lores, CEO of HP Inc., about their lighthouse in Singapore. Their success is driven by automation, digitization, and artificial intelligence, all resulting in improved productivity and quality. Johnson & Johnson, consumer health plant in Sweden, is being recognized today as well. With it, the group adds its 5th lighthouse to the network, which is a major achievement. Many congratulations again to Alex Gorski and his team. The facility in Sweden is actually our very first CO2 neutral lighthouse, which makes it even more special. Hongguo Fang, chairman and CEO of Midea, will talk about their new lighthouse in Shunde, China. A unique set of use cases led Midea to improve their e-commerce market share overseas and to achieve the new lighthouse recognition. Procter Gamble, who is already part of the Global Lighthouse Network, celebrates 2 new lighthouses, becoming actually one of the leading companies when it comes to successfully transforming digitally at scale. In France, they have deployed 4th industrial revolution use cases to unlock production capacity. And in the US, they are leveraging digital twins, advanced analytics, and automation to significantly increase speed to market.
In India, our new lighthouse from Renew Power developed proprietary analytics to improve yield and employee productivity. Its chairman and managing director, Sumat Sinha, will tell us how they are using digital technologies to unleash renewable energy production. And in Hamburg, Germany, digital allowed Siemens to continue its successful growth journey. We'll hear from Roland Busch, CEO of Siemens, how over the last 30 years, the Hamburg factory increased its output by 14 times with the same size of staff, but with an entire new skill set. We'll also congratulate and welcome Star Refinery in Turkey to our network, a plant that was designed and built with the aim of becoming the most technology advanced refinery in the world.
Tata Steel is not new to the Global Lighthouse Network, but their plant in Jamshedpur in India is the latest addition. TV Narendran, CEO and Managing Director of Tata Steel, will tell us more about their new lighthouse. Actually, their ability to overcome deeply rooted cultural and technology legacies to save on raw materials and reduce the cost of serving customers is quite unique. Tsingtao Brewery in Tsingtao, China, is the penultimate addition to the Global Lighthouse Network. In their 118-year-old facility, they have successfully deployed digital solutions to reduce lead time to address consumer demands for customized orders. Kejin Huang, Chairman and CEO of Tsingtao Brewery, will tell us more about how they did it. Last but not least is Wistron in Kunshan, China. The company used artificial intelligence, IoT tools, and flexible automation to respond to very unique business challenges. Xian Minglin, Chairman and CSO of Wistron, will tell us more about their work that led actually into the Lighthouse recognition. We have 15 new lighthouses. What an amazing cohort we are onboarding in this very unique cross-company learning journey that the Global Lighthouse Network provides and represents. Congratulations again to all of them. Eno, over to you. Let's dive deeper into the work and uniqueness of the lighthouses.
Thank you, Francisco. I'm excited to go into a bit more detail now as our Lighthouse leaders tell us directly how they are reimagining their operations for growth, both through innovating business models and by unlocking capacity. One of the key tenets of members of our Lighthouse network is to have the courage and the willingness to invest in new ideas. They're using digital technologies to better and faster understand what their customers want and need, and they are building the capacity to respond rapidly and gain market share. Let's hear from our Lighthouse CEOs. How is digital driving a competitive advantage and creating new business models while unlocking capacity?
Industry 4.0, and of course digital is an important part of Industry 4.0, is about competitiveness of a plant. And it's clearly productivity, cost reduction, quality improvement. But at the end, it's competitiveness. And when the location is competitive, it will gain new business because customers will like their products to be produced in this plant. They're happy with the performance, and this leads to new business. Now, for example, during the period that was looked at by the WEF in giving these awards, 2016 to 2020, the Suzhou plant grew by 50% in terms of sales volume. So it's very impressive, showing that a very competitive plant will always grow because, as I said, new products will come to this plant. And an additional example I can give, the Suzhou plant was inaugurated in 2006. And we gave the Suzhou plant the task to bring up their sister plant in Wujin. So it's run also under the responsibility of Suzhou. And this is quite new. It was inaugurated in 2017. So Suzhou not only was growing on the spot, on the site in Suzhou, but also in their sister plant in Wuji. So it clearly demonstrates it's all about competitiveness. Of course, production cost is an important element. Top quality, especially in automotive, is very important. But overall, it always then is the basis to grow. And of course, also to lead to new employment.
Combining the digital and the physical world is really making a difference if you want to drive productivity above and beyond the levels which we know, which is normally you say if you grow and you drive productivity, you can do 3 to 4, maybe 2, 3, 4%. We're talking about maybe 5, 10, 20, or 30% of productivity increase. Is it shortening cycle time? Is it reducing the energy consumption? It's in particular, it is doing more with less. This is what the combination of the digital and the physical work allows us to do. And Amberg is a very good example because we are, if you look at the output which we do and also the value which our products are generating at our customers in terms of having a faster cycle time, having a much more efficient production, being more flexible, that you can run on very same side, you can run different products or you can reduce your cost with a much smaller lot size, even lot size 1. This is all possible if you do the right combination of, again, the digital and the physical world. So what we do is in deploying these technologies, we can support our customers to suppress quality inspection, for example. We are working on the analytics of welding spots, so that you have a quality assessment, AI-based, which allows you to suppress quality checks by substantially. We're working with customers, shorten their cycle time, which is bringing their innovation into a faster cycle. So there's so many examples where this combination makes such a difference. And that's what we are deploying, not only in Amberg, but we bring that to our other sites, and we bring it, of course, also to our customers.
在身份定制呢这方面呢，首先我们就搭建了一个私人定制的平台，在这个平台上呢
built a customized platform, including design, supply, manufacture, upstream supplier and downstream supplier. All customers, when ordering, the designers, the upstream suppliers, the manufacturers, the same time can respond. So we can meet the customer's needs rapidly. It's the same time, in real time, rapid response. So we can reach the personalization covering the whole value chain. It's end-to-end closed loop. And the customer's needs are satisfied. That's what we say, I decide my beer. So the lead time, the response time to orders are shortened. In production, we use visual identification system to better sort the products. Say in a production line in full run, we can sort out those personalized, customized product from the line. It's automatic sorting. And the production itself is not affected. And the production, flexible production can be achieved. And also it reduces the labor intensity and at the same time satisfy
技术的这个转型给美的带来了好处，比如它改变了这个我们的这个所有这个
is very beneficial to media.
The digital transformation is beneficial to us. It changes our way of working. We are able to get rid of a repetitive manual task and rely more on computers and softwares, and based upon that, we went on optimizing resource distribution and improve our efficiency and change our way of doing business. And of managing the whole value chain, upstream and downstream. I think most importantly is the innovation of business model. By using massively digital technologies, we acquire data that covers the whole value chain, and we could then optimize them and select and analyze them, and it enables us to have a insight on consumer trend and new needs, and this enables us to react faster and provide with better service to our customers than our competitors. And of course, there's also the
of CEOs It is wonderful to hear how companies achieve impact and became lighthouses, especially when they are willing to share experiences and learnings with our global manufacturing community. The next group of CEOs that you will hear from are no less innovative in their approach to digitization. What is unique is that they are all leveraging digital transformation, not only to improve their operations, but also to build more sustainable production networks. They are actually seeing the dual benefit of digital transformation, cost reduction and increased sustainability. As you can see in our new white paper that was published earlier this week, more than half of the members of our Global Lighthouse Network are already driving environmental sustainability through the adoption of fourth industrial revolution technologies. There is a global green revolution going on, and it should be a source of inspiration for all manufacturing companies. Let's now hear directly from the CEOs. How can organizations best embrace environmental sustainability as a driving force of their digital transformation strategies?
In our Lighthouse factory, we were able to make great progress in terms of sustainability. And our digital ecosystem certainly played a key role in that. We managed to reduce our energy consumption by 16%, our waste by 35%, and our overall CO2 emissions by 10%. And this shows that Industry 4.0 is really a key lever to drive sustainable growth. To reach our long-term sustainability targets, the fourth industrial revolution technologies are key, and we will continue to transform at a large scale. And one example in that context is really leveraging machine learning capabilities to optimize energy-intensive processes. Our goal of becoming a climate-positive company by 2040 is one major target on our sustainability agenda. And it starts with a strong focus on our production sites. Here, we plan to reduce the carbon footprint of our production by 65% by 2025. And the goal, I think, is clear, is ambitious, and the challenge is great, but so is the sense of urgency.
Sustainable growth is, I think, a key word for the future. We all in companies need to think about that. And of course, it's important because it's the right thing to do, is to think about the environment, consequences on our surroundings. But we also believe it's good business sense to work and put sustainability at the center. So, for example, what we have done is, of course, you mentioned the numbers on our factory in Dallas, where we are reducing water consumption, we're reducing electric bills, etc. That makes good business sense, as a matter of fact. We get that back by being more cost efficient. The second reason for building the factory was actually to improve the resiliency of our supply chain. We recognize that it doesn't cost a lot more to build factories, to build more factories, a bit smaller than what we had, but we could build them in new locations, because we actually, even those labor cost differences, but we recognize if we do it in a sustainable way, leveraging all modern technologies, we're actually going to cut energy consumption, we're going to cut transportation needs. So when you look at the all-in costs, it is not that much higher compared to putting it anywhere else in the world. So by doing this, we think we can serve our customers better, but we can also be more sustainable and actually consume less energy in our manufacturing.
Intelligent manufacturing and digital transformation is a work that must be sustainable. And sustainability is also the reason that we need digital transformation. And it is also the mindset that all socially responsible companies should have. What the consumers today expect from us is not only a good product, a high quality beer, but also that a company that has values, that produces in a green and sustainable manner. By using new technologies, we will be able to improve our efficiency in terms of production and reduce energy consumption. And more importantly, we will also incorporate green and sustainable development into the whole value chain. For instance, thanks to the precise order sharing system, we are improving by significant amount our logistic efficiency and reduce energy consumption and our environmental impact.
And 4IR technologies driven more sustainable operations. I think sustainable operations requires that we reduce production waste, energy costs with worry-free environmental impacts. As part of meeting these requirements, this year we began the development of our first zero waste operation in our production systems. For example, we're using digital twin technology as an innovation tool to reduce energy and waste to meet a 30% energy reduction per unit produced.
And there's another element in it, which you can also see in Amberg, which we're working on. We call it the digital CO2 footprint twin. You know, we are creating a digital twin of our products. That you can see that in Amberg too, in our Lighthouse product. We create a digital twin of our product, which we're going to produce. So Simatic produces itself there. So a digital twin of our Simatic. We create a digital twin of the manufacturing side. We simulate it, run it, and then we build it. And then we see that with limited resources, because you don't have to go all the sample process, we produce. But here comes the point that we are along this path of creating a digital twin of our product. We have also a digital twin of the CO2 footprint of the very same product. So an engineer, while engineering, can already see if he engineers with different parts, different supplies, different setups, what is the impact on the CO2 footprint after all? And this is so cool. By the way, it's also a digital twin for cost. You can imagine that this is also very important. But in doing that, you really have kind of an end-to-end view on it, and you're embedding, even in your design process, the mindset of how can I reduce the CO2 footprint into it. And this is what we believe we can showcase there, and we want to make a product out of that one too.
The sustainability is always is becoming, not only always, is becoming more and more important. As we run in operation as our scale, I understand and we believe that the sustainability is one of our very, very key responsibilities. And we realize that if we do things right, we can demonstrate to others, including our community partners, our supply chain partners, let them understand that this is something that we cannot escape. In order to make sure that we can achieve that, we need to build in our own core competence and capabilities. We have a lot of equipment we purchase from outside. All those kind of process has been defined and designed as a global so-called standard. But when we look at the overall picture, which means that you need to realign all the equipment together, that you have to have very smart sensor in the proper locations and send you the right data. And you need to have your a big data analytical scientist. You need to define your algorithm. And these are our competitive edge. And this is something that we develop by ourselves. After we do such things, we can demonstrate the entire sustainability as some of our, as well as our competitiveness. Because when we do this, we not only saving more power, we certainly respond to a better sustainability kind of score, but the good point is we stay competitive.
We are actually at the cusp of a massive energy transition that is upon us right now. We are moving and migrating from the traditional ways of generating energy, which was through coal-based, fossil fuel-based methods, to clean energy-based systems like wind and solar and maybe even hydro. And by nature, these sources of energy are variable. And so therefore, you have to really be able to harness these sources of energy. And that is very critical. So the whole issue of managing this intermittency to make it more grid friendly, how to do that either through batteries and storage-based solutions and through demand response systems. Both of those require a very high ability to get data, generate data, and analyze that data. And the more you can use data, the more you can actually increase the penetration of renewables into the grid. So to me, the whole digital and the fourth industrial revolution is a fundamental building block to really greening our electricity systems in the future.
Wow, digital twins of the CO2 footprint, sustainability because it saves cost. Impressive how our lighthouses drive sustainability as competitive advantage. How do we scale this across the globe? Our lighthouses have a working solution, but how do they scale? The biggest challenge we are facing is that the thousands flower bloom approach has failed. Too many manufacturers stuck in piloting. We call it the pilot purgatory. We've researched our lighthouses of what are they doing differently, and while all of them are somewhat unique, they all have put similar scale-up enablers in place, including building a digital backbone, investing in digital academies to upskill their workforce, use agile ways of working, and put a transformation office in place that assures that the value is coming. So how are new lighthouses scaling across the company, and what's their secret sauce to break out of the pilot purgatory?
Tata Steel as an organization has constantly been transforming itself for more than the last 100 years. That's why we are around even after 100 years. So we are always looking for what is the next wave, what are the new things to do, how do we do that, how do we transform the organization using the principles of what is relevant for the future. And the fourth industrial revolution was something that we picked up a few years back at the World Economic Forum and decided that we want to be one of the leading digital manufacturing sites, certainly in the steel industry, but even across manufacturing industries. So we went through, like any other change management program, we got the leadership committed onto it, we exposed them to the opportunities that they are. They went and visited companies across industries, across the world to see the potential and the opportunities of deploying digital technologies, particularly in process industries. And we used that buy-in of the leadership team to drive this change in the organization.
Fourth industrial revolution is a big topic that I think that everybody, in the previous time that they treat fourth industrial revolution as foundation, only the automation. And then some of the artificial intelligence, they need to put intelligence into that. But I don't think that is enough. The key is the whole organization need to embrace the 100% digital transformations to all your data. Your database is nothing but truth, and then you have a very good data structure in order that you can highly utilize such kind of data to analyze and then to make decisions. So that's also real-time data. So that is the fundamental big changes, that not a single task. So the whole company need to convert into a full digital company.
We have developed a unique cloud-based data platform that connects more than 30 laundry and home care sites and 6 distribution centers in real time. This digital ecosystem helps to meet growing customer expectations on service and sustainability, while at the same time achieving double-digit cost and inventory reductions. With this ecosystem, we can measure our energy consumption in real time for all our production sites worldwide. And thousands of sensors, cameras, and robots feed billion data points every day into the cloud-based digital platform. And the visualized data then helps us to optimize our energy, our water, waste, and safety parameters. And I think important is, since the launch, we systematically expanded the capabilities of our backbone beyond sustainability. Today, it also includes process and machine efficiency, quality, and also safety data.
今天的世界变化很快。
In today's world, the things are changing very quickly. In the past, when we were making decisions, we used models or experience. Thus, the resources were not allocated in the best way. Today, we use end-to-end value chain management, relied on automatic flow of data, and try to better allocate resources. In our back end, we need to invest to build digital facilities. From data store, we are moving to a middle platform, and finally to build data pool. In one word, is to build better infrastructures, digital infrastructures, to improve our digital transition.
You have seen in Suzhou, I would say the answer is the International Production Network, or in short IPN, that we have established within Bosch. So all the plants are part of a global network. We have lead plants that try out new technologies, new processes, new ideas, and it's the task of the lead plant to transfer this new technology, this new method into the network, and thereby ensure scaling. I give you one example that is also implemented in the Suzhou plant to reduce the technical downtime of machines. They, for example, use virtual reality technology. And the same technology is also used in our brand new wafer fab that we currently build up in Dresden. In Dresden, we had the problem that due to the Corona pandemic, many people from our equipment manufacturers were not allowed to travel to Dresden to install the equipment. So we used virtual reality techniques and having them remotely assist our colleagues in the plant to install the equipment. I think that's a very good example how this international network works to the benefit of all nearly 250 locations worldwide.
When we started this digital transformation, we started by listening to employees on what problems they're facing. We focused on what helps them do their work better and better serve our customers. This helps employees to buy in on the overall journey. At the core of change is our transformation office. This is our command center to drive the transformation at each site, together with our industrial internet office. The transformation office brings complete performance transparency to thousands of improvement initiatives underway at Foxconn in any given week. It drives a rigorous cadence of agile execution. We have also involved the entire group into the digital transformation. We regularly host internal competitions to encourage our frontline people to innovate and get involved. As a result, if you visit Foxconn today, you will see a very different company.
What we did to actually get agile ways of working into the company, it's all about, again, the people. It's about empowering people. It's about giving them the means to make fact-based decisions, to take kind of control of their own destiny within their project. And that is a key reason why I think we have been able to run in a much more agile way now. Of course, it's a skill dimension as well, that's needed. And there is an infrastructure need that applies as well. But take, for example, with the digital infrastructure we have put in place, we could create a digital twin at one of our other factories. And that allowed us basically to train people before they started working on the real equipment. So in a way, we shortened the startup time by months because we could train our operators well in advance and they would know what problems to encounter. So I think it's a lot of things to be gained here on the people side, the way we train people, the way we develop our people, and the way we empower our people. And that's where I think the most of the attention should go. It's not a technology question. It's in reality a mindset question.
Very clear. Achieving scale is a lot about mindsets and people, how they are using modernized technology. Since the launch of the network, we have spoken again and again about the importance of mobilizing the workforce, about the need to provide frontline operators with the tools and training they need so that they can do their job safer and better than before. We found that lighthouses are much more focused on augmenting their operators than on automation. Lighthouse does not mean lights out, not at all. How do you prepare your workforce for the future of operations? And how are people really feeling working in a lighthouse?
Our people are of course very proud to work in a lighthouse factory. So it's a very, very high sign of appreciation of everything they are doing by, in this case, for example, being awarded by the World Economic Forum and be awarded as one of the leading plants in the world. So they definitely are very proud to have achieved this. That's very clear. I think what's maybe a little bit peculiar about the Bosch approach on ongoing digital, on implementing Industry 4.0 is that we put people at the center of all we are doing. So clearly, you can use digital tools also to replace jobs in an aggressive way. That's not what we are doing. Our approach is different. We try to make people even more valuable. Of course, we will have a shift of qualification. That's clear. But always, everything that we try to do is to free up people from tedious, dangerous work and to make people even more valuable by letting them concentrate on what we as human beings can do much better, to be creative, to improve processes, things like this.
One of the challenges is how do you mobilize the entire workforce so that it is not just a project which is something the CEO wants to do or something that the IT team wants to do. This is a business-driven project which has a buy-in of people at the top of the organization as well as at the bottom of the organization. So when we started this journey, apart from creating that mindset by exposing people to the opportunities, we also encourage people down the line to choose projects that will make an impact to their daily lives. So it is like asking the people on the shop floor, what is it that we can do with technology to make your life easier? So a large number of projects which came to us at the beginning were all projects which didn't cost us much money, but which made a big difference to the lives of the people on the shop floor. And it may have helped the safety of on the shop floor. It may have helped the productivity on the shop floor. It may have reduced emissions on the shop floor, whatever. But the point is they saw that you can use technology to make a difference to your daily lives. So once you have that kind of a buy-in, the whole organization is with you when you want to drive this transformation. There are top-down goals as well. We set our goal in Jamshedpur of a $2 billion cost takeout over a few years, so that there was a definitive goal that we were chasing in addition to doing a large number of projects. So there was a tracking system we had for that. We were anyway running a very strong program on continuous improvement. So we merged the digital transformation program with the continuous improvement program so that it again became embedded with the way we work. So I think this way, the whole organization is committed to it. It is not something that you do on the side, but you do it as part of the way you work.
It's true. One of the most important elements of really having this transformation is having the right education, upskilling and reskilling of our workforce. To explain to you how important it is, I give you just a couple of numbers which speak for themselves. This plant started off in 1989, so it's 30 years back. Since then, the output increased 14-fold 14-fold. This would be a CAGR of 9.2% for 30 years. And now comes the question, how many people have been working 1989 and how many are working today? And I have to say, with maybe a 1 or 2 digits difference, it's 1,200 people. So how can 1,200 people increase their output 14-fold? I tell you, it is about a blend of technology, and we call it digital and automation technology, as well as people, and their job look completely different than it looked like 30 years ago. So therefore, and this explains to you how powerful it is if you are constantly upskilling your people, bring them in contact with the right technology and deploy it on the ground. We're investing in Siemens, we're investing 300 million euros in terms of education and training of our own people constantly. Obviously, we do that more and more in a virtual training. We have digital platforms, education platforms, where more than 10,000 people are training per month. So therefore, that's really one of the most important elements, which I believe is helping us. And you have to train them in all these new technologies. Is it 3D printing? Is it the highest level of automation? Is it AI-based technologies, which are optimizing our flow? So therefore, this element is of essence. And I have to say, I do believe also that education and training is the single biggest lever which we can give to societies in order to improve their quality of life, as well as to maintain the sustainable growth of societies.
We are putting a huge emphasis on reskilling the workforce to operate in the digital world. Part of this is about bringing on new roles that the company needs: Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, data scientists, and IIoT architects. The other part is about reskilling the workforce in their current jobs across all functions. And we don't train them only on digital. That could miss the full skill sets needed for our people to be successful. We train our people on digital, leadership, execution, and the functional skills. And in order to be able to scale up to thousands of employees across the group, we use digital tools for training.
I want to highlight that from my point of view, technology and Industry 4.0 only works and deliver benefits by engaging and taking along all employees. Our employees make the difference. There is no digitalization and there is no fourth industrial revolution without innovative people driving this change. We see that with the digitalization, requirements change faster than ever. And having this in mind, we foster lifelong learning at Henkel for all teams. And to prepare our workforce for the future, we invest in learning, but also in upskilling. We have implemented a global digital upskilling initiative for all employees at Henkel, offering tailor-made digital training sessions. And when launching our digital backbone 8 years ago, we have evolved our sites early and trained our colleagues, and we do this really constantly. And today, thousands of users have access to the platform, from machine operator to the chief supply chain officer.
数字化转型它是不是某一个
Transformation, digital transformation is not a business of one person, a business of a CEO. Is a business for everybody in the company. Everybody needs to participate in it. And in the future, everything will be driven by the digital. It will be driven by software, by computers. That's the future. There's the digital company in its real meaning. We need everybody to embark on this journey, in the digital journey. Another point, we need to have a digital mindset. To change a mindset, we still need to turn to technologies. The operation, the work methods of our employees need also be digitalized. So we need to put in a lot of money to invest in the training.
Operators that have become upskilled and promoted to technical specialists, and technical specialists that have become engineers. So has clearly been a model where everybody has won. And these type of changes really are beneficial, not only for us as a company, but for Singapore as a country and for the overall society. And on top of that, in parallel to the work that we did in our manufacturing line, we work with the Nanyang University, Technical University, to create an R&D development center where we continue to develop technologies that over time will be used in our manufacturing plant. So there is really a strong symbiotic relationship between the work we do in the factories, the work that we do in the universities, and this is how we see the solution will continue to evolve in the future.
I see quite a number of efforts here where governments actually need to step in as well. I think we big companies, we can take care of our people. We can train our people. We do that systematically. We develop the skills within the digital, call it, domain. But I worry a bit more about the SMEs, for example. Can they afford to make those investments? I do think here governments, regulators need to also contribute here and start to focus the efforts on how do we train the general population and to become much more digital natives than anything else. And I think that's one of the major tasks where I would ask support also from the regulators.
Well, people are clearly at the center of every lighthouse. And indeed, most digital transformations start on the factory floor. But actually, the exciting thing is that none of them stops there. The Global Lighthouse Network already covers a very diverse set of industries and geographies, and we are seeing it expanding further and at speed. Lighthouses are shining brightly and engaging in a very unique learning journey with our global community. As we look to the future, we will continue celebrating those organizations that are leading the way in manufacturing, operations, but also beyond. We will close our event today with a forward-looking conversation on the future of operations. But before that, let's hear again from our CEOs. How do companies deploy fourth industrial revolution technology beyond traditional manufacturing and across different functions of their companies?
We're a renewable energy company. We have more than 100 sites across different parts of India. We operate more than 2,000 wind turbines, millions of solar panels. All of that equipment is generating a huge amount of data. That is at this point in time not really getting analyzed. It wasn't getting analyzed earlier. And so what we decided is that if we really wanted to improve the performance of all of our assets, we needed to pick up this information, clean it up, and make sure that we put it into digital frameworks so that we could actually improve the performance of all of our assets. And really, that's what we've done. And it has resulted in a very significant performance improvement of all of our assets by several percentage points. And that, goes straight to the bottom line and has a very significant commercial impact for us as well.
And I am extremely proud of that team and that organization. If I had to summarize what they are doing, I would say three key things. First of all, they are ambition-led. They dreamed about what the solution could be, and they made it happen. They have also innovated with purpose. It's not only about reducing cost, it's about the impact they are having in the environment and the impact they are having in their communities. And finally, they are demonstrating the values of the overall company. So they have really become not only a lighthouse, an external lighthouse, but they are really also driving this change and showing how change is important for the rest of the company. Our next aspiration is to become an end-to-end connected value chain. Think the factory is an element on a more complex value chain, and we need to continue to aspire to become and to drive changes in our overall ecosystem. And I think this amount of change, the possibilities that change open, is what makes me very optimistic about where we can go in the future. We can build more flexible and resilient supply chains. We can create new type of products centered on personalization, and this will continue to allow us to create new business models. So this is just one step in a long series of changes that will continue to drive innovation and growth for the HP, but also for all the countries where we are doing business.
So how we are looking at scaling up beyond asset management is a very important issue for us, because as we got more and more into our digital journey, and more of our employees started thinking about how we could do things differently, what became apparent to us that what had started as an asset management journey to improve our overall revenues and our operating performance, we found that there were a number of ways in which we could use this whole digital mindset and digital capability across the organization. And I'll just tell you a couple of simple areas. For example, in HR, can we use these digital mindset to potentially manage our people better? Similarly, on the finance side, we do a lot of fundraising. And there's lots of interest rate decisions that we need to make. Can we use again data in maybe some other way to actually improve our capabilities on our interest rate setting issues? So what we did is that we actually have set up a digital laboratory within our system, within our company, which is called RED, for Renew Digital. And so that capability now exists. It's people by data scientists, data engineers, visualizers, and so on. And therefore, we now have the capability of taking on different problems and trying to solve those problems, whichever area they're in. And just to mention a couple of other areas, that use cases that we found. First of all, commodity price forecasting is an area that we're trying to see whether we can do something. The same thing is around the construction side, not just the asset management side, but looking at the construction of our assets to see whether we can improve any, come out of any capital cost reduction strategies. And then, of course, the whole issue of looking at using digital and developing a third-party service offering that we could then take to some of our other peer group companies in the market and really use that as a new revenue stream, which you could actually then monetize. So there are many, many different things that we're realizing are opportunities for us beyond where we started with, which was an asset management, looking at scaling it out to other parts of the organization, and then even seeing whether we can actually develop it as a product and take it outside the organization.
There is a great opportunity to scale fourth industrial revolution principles beyond the core functions. While the natural place to start are the core functions, and maybe there's a lot of value to be derived there. But I think one of the areas where we can work on is to really enhance the stakeholder experience through deploying fourth industrial revolution technologies. Those stakeholders could be suppliers, those stakeholders could be customers, those stakeholders could be the employees, those stakeholders could be the community. In Tata Steel in Jamshedpur, which is a site which has been operational for over 100 years, we have a city around the steel plant, and one of our subsidiaries runs the city. We also run one of the largest hospitals. We have a 1,000-bed hospital that we run in the city. So when I look at some of the technologies that we are familiar with because of deploying fourth industrial revolution principles in our operating plants, we think about how can we use these technologies to run the city better? How can we use these technologies to run the hospital better? How can we use these technologies to deliver better outcomes to the community? Because we do a lot of CSR work with the communities around us, and we operate in some of the poorest parts of the country. So I think there's a great opportunity for us not just to drive efficiencies, but also to deliver better outcomes to the communities who are impacted by our footprint.
A big thank you to all our Lighthouse speakers. It's time now to conclude this event by looking at the future of operations and our Global Lighthouse Network. And to do so, I'm delighted to introduce Katie George, who is a senior partner and the global co-convener of McKinsey's operations practice. Katie has over 25 years of client service experience focused on operational performance, operations and business strategy, and operating model design. Katie, a very warm welcome. We are delighted to have you here with us. You speak with dozens of C-level executives every week. What are you hearing from them? How do you see the future of operations shaping up?
Well, I think the first thing is that more than ever, operations has to be an extension of the boardroom, of the executive suite. Operations has to be a way of really achieving a company's business strategy and customer value proposition in a very clear way. And a couple of things in order to do that through the use of the technologies we've talked about. First of all, the fourth industrial revolution technologies are not just about the production process. They really need to be adopted end to end across the whole value chain. Secondly, technology should not be just for technology's sake. There are lots of failure modes that we've seen where companies have tried to adopt technologies that sound interesting, but they don't deliver real business results. The technology roadmap has to be tightly coupled to a very clear business strategy and set of business objectives. And finally, in order to achieve true sustainable transformation, the fourth industrial revolution technologies have to be adopted across the whole organization. This has to be a broad-based transformation, not just pockets of innovation.
Katie, this is fascinating. And today we have thousands of executives who are following the event. What could you say are the top priorities they should all bear in mind as they prepare and lead their organizations into the future?
I guess I would leave people with three things. First, that now more than ever, we need to connect the strategies in the boardroom and in the executive suite to the front line. The front line has to be really aligned with achieving very specific business objectives, customer value propositions that guide the company forward. Secondly, I think beware of technology for technology's sake. These lighthouses have been really strategic in understanding what the business goals are and then linking the technology roadmap to those. Too often we see failure modes where companies pursue interesting new technologies in isolation and they aren't really connected to business objectives and they don't deliver the return on the investment that they expect.
Well, this is terrific advice, Katie. Thank you. Maybe today we heard very unique insights from our new lighthouses. And my final question to you is, how do you see our Global Lighthouse Network evolving in the year to come? And where should we go next and why?
Well, first of all, I think that we're going to see increasingly our lighthouses innovate, not just in their production processes, but really across their end-to-end value chains. And that includes not just the operations functions, but includes digital marketing, it includes sales, it includes R&D. It also includes IT and finance and HR. So we're going to see much more of an enterprise approach as we go forward. We'll also see more of an ecosystem approach, companies engaging and creating much more transparency with customers and with suppliers and even with other related businesses so that the whole ecosystem gets faster information about what's changing in the market and how they need to adapt. And then finally, I think that we will see a lot of new lighthouses outside of the manufacturing sector. We'll see new lighthouses coming in that really represent digital service journeys in insurance and banking and other service industries.
Well, what an amazing time to be in operations and embark in digital transformation journeys. Katie, thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to working with you in the year ahead.
Likewise. Thank you, Francisco.
We are at the end of our time together. Many thanks to all our speakers for taking the time to share their vision, their insights and learnings with all of us. And congratulations once again to the 50 new lighthouses and their entire teams. The work you are doing is inspiring, and you are setting new benchmarks for our global community. And of course, let me also thank Enu in New York and all our colleagues at the World Economic Forum and McKinsey for the unique commitment and hard work which makes all this possible.
Francisco, thanks to you as well and to our audience for taking time out of their busy schedules to join our Lighthouse Live event. We close the day with 69 lighthouses in our network. What an amazing achievement.
No, this is certainly a big number, but we still have a lot of work to do. There are millions of facilities and companies around the world. Thanks again to all. Stay engaged in this very exciting journey and reach out to us if you want to learn more. Bye for now.